All right, we're live. Yeah, I was just talking about my busted feet.
I was going to say John is broken.
Yeah, yeah. So that kind of sucked. Yeah, running on and I thought my foot was broken for sure because it was bad. Like I couldn't put any weight on it. It just well, what happened was when I was doing the trail run, I I hit this rock and it wasn't even like, I
Uh-huh.
mean, I just hit it with like the sole of my foot, right? And it wasn't a sharp rock or anything. It was just like an impact. It just felt like I had no cushion in my shoe and it just went right through my foot. And I heard a pop noise and I felt a crunch, in my foot. That's why I
Oh,
thought my foot
y'all.
was broken. So I was like, oh, I'm screwed. And this was 10 minutes into a 2.5 hour trail run. So, oh, and then the other thing about that trail run, it was so stupid. I didn't get up early in the morning because I'd stayed up later and then I had like a call early, like a live
Mm-hmm.
stream. So I went in the afternoon and I loaded up. I had my pack with like a liter of water on my back and like another liter on
Mm-hmm.
my front. So I had like 2 liters of water or so, or however much yeah, something around that amount. It was a good amount of water. And it was hot out there, right? It was way hotter than I thought because I checked the temperature before I left, and the temperature at my house was like the high was going to be something like 76 or so, or maybe like
Right.
78, something like that, right? That's bearable. It's hot, but when I got out there and I looked at my watch because it's in the valley a little bit, so it's inland.
Uh-huh.
It got up to like 94 degrees.
Oh,
So
y'all.
I'm out there hiking and it's a trail run, so part of it is like really steep elevation, like they're on this trail. It's like like maybe like a 15 to 20% incline, like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can't even run it. It's hard to walk up some of these hills that are that. And so I went off on the trail, like I had my route, and there was no one else out there for like an hour. Like I hadn't seen anyone for an hour and a half. And so I was out there trying to go up these humongous hills, 95 degrees, running out of water, right? A busted foot before I rolled the ankle on the other foot. And I had a little bit of a panic moment because I was like, oh shit. My heart rate was like starting to skyrocket. Like I was just walking up a hill and my heart rate was hitting like 170, 180,
Oh, wow.
which is like, I mean, that's high for running as fast as I can. So it was because of the heat and everything and the pain, I guess. But I started to think, I was like, shit, like there's no one around, right? I'm miles
Mm-hmm.
away. Like I was 6 miles into the hike. Like there's nowhere I can go for help. Like, I'm in very serious danger of like heat exhaustion or, I could possibly like die out here, like this is like, it didn't even occur to me until I'm like, shit, 95 degrees, 94 degrees, hiking out
Yep.
here alone, busted foot. And so I just kept going forward because I was like, that's the only thing I can do is just keep going forward. And I had like 1,500 feet of elevation climb. And man, I completely ran out of water. So I was going the last like hour with no water.
Oh,
And
y'all.
but I made, and then to top it all off, during that, like I wasn't paying as much attention because I was focusing on not dying, and I rolled my ankle on the other foot pretty bad, and but I was able to walk, luckily. Otherwise, I would have been
Right.
really screwed, right? I would have been like calling 911 from
Yep.
the from the trail. But I made it back, and then couldn't walk for 2 days. Basically, I thought it was broken. I
Oh,
got
man.
X-rays. The doctor was like, "What the hell did you do?" They're laughing at me because it's like both of my feet, right?
Uh-huh.
And neither one of them was broken, but um, but then and I thought I was done. I thought my 100-mile race was done because I'm not going to be able to train. It turns out I only missed one training day. I only missed Sunday because Monday I had off. So I just missed the hike
Right.
on Sunday, and then Tuesday I was able to run again. Like I was walking with a bit of a limp, but I was able to run. I mean, it's still painful. Like I just finished my run this morning. It definitely hurts running on the busted foot, but I can do it. So yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, how has your week been?
So, I have been chasing sponsorships. I've got a couple that are kind of in limbo.
Mm.
I've talked to a bunch of different people. Yeah, just trying to figure it out. I reached out to my friend who works at Morgan Stanley about possibly getting a full-time job,
Okay.
because
Okay.
my wife she basically she was like, you don't want to hear it, and I'm like, that's okay, just tell me. And so yeah, we're kind of at the end of what she can take with all this, because it's been 9 months.
Yeah, I'm sure
it's
that's
been rough.
pretty
So
stressful.
I talked to him, but I have to go through the whole process. I mean, I did an interview with him before, so he just has to get approval to give me an offer, which is going to take some time. And then I have to have background checks and all this stuff run. So basically, I'm working on getting the podcast network to self-sustainable without me being as involved. And so I've been working on standard operating procedures, which I've kind of been working on for a while. I actually have a tentative purchase agreement for React Native Radio, which is a blessing and a curse. I didn't really want to sell any of the shows, but this company, they're all good guys. They'll do a good job with the show. The issue is that I feel like I kind of failed or gave up on it. But this show's had the panel quit on it twice.
Okay.
And I've been trying to limp it along for a while. And the only saving grace to it is that I have been able to get it sponsored off and on for the last while.
Yeah.
So I was able to ask more for it. Right? Is because I was like, look, realistically over the next 3 or 4 years, I could make, so much money. So, I expect you to pay somewhere in that ballpark. And
type a number in chat if you're comfortable. I know you probably don't want to air it on here, but I'm just curious.
I don't want to air it on here just because I don't know what all the implications of doing that would be.
Yeah, it's not a good, especially if you're negotiating, but I am curious. Okay.
So,
okay.
So with that amount would allow me to keep things running for a little bit. So
what's the viewership on the podcast?
3,000 to 4,000
downloads per
week.
month?
No, per episode.
Oh, per episode. Oh, okay.
When I put out a new episode, we can expect to get 3,000 to 4,000
in like the
downloads.
4-week period of.
Yeah.
Yep. I see. Oh, okay. That makes sense. And you do 1 episode a week on it.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to calculate from my Libsyn. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's a tough one. Like whether, I don't know.
I mean, it gets the keep it limping along part of it off my plate, right? I don't have to go find more hosts and things like that, like I've been doing. But yeah, I'm not thrilled about it.
The question about this one though is like, will you regret it later? Because I mean, this is a good property to own, right? Because React is really big.
Yeah. Well, it's React Native.
Is there a difference?
Yeah, React is web focused and React Native is mobile focused.
Is mobile? Oh, okay. See, yeah, this is what happens when you're out of technology for a long time. But I mean, that's a growing area, though. I would assume, right? So
yeah, it is.
So it might be. I don't know. It might be worth. I'm looking at to see, like, in comparison, what like Bulldog Mindset podcast. I never look at the stats. It's like, yeah, I guess that's not. How do I see how many per? It's like, oh, but I'm releasing episodes like every day on it, so it's not a good comparison. Like the downloads per month on Bulldog Mindset podcast is like 10,000.
Right.
If I look at like Simple Programmer podcast, it's like 20,000 per month. So that's probably.
Yeah, but it still depends on how many you're releasing every week. You can usually see the numbers per episode.
Yeah. Okay. I see now. So Simple Programmer podcast per episode is around, looks like 2,000 downloads. Yeah. So yeah, so then that is, I think that's a pretty significant. So I don't know, man. I don't know if I would let it go for that, considering that it could be one of your better properties if you can
Yeah.
just get it going. It might be worth it to just, like, okay, so think of it this way, right? Instead of um instead of taking 15 grand for it, oh, but shit, damn it.
It's okay.
Damn it. Sorry, man. I completely, damn it. Why did I, sorry about that.
It's okay.
Shit. Um Instead of taking money for it, it might be better to invest into it to get it to the point where you don't have to, where you have everything running smooth.
Yeah, I keep coming back around to that, but the issue is that I have some pretty immediate needs right now, and I don't know where the rest of this is going to come from. And I'm working on sponsorships, but they're just not materializing. And I have reached out to as many people as I can even find, and it's still not materializing. Like I said, I've got a few people that are kind of in a holding pattern, and yeah, so it's not. I think long term, yeah, it may be something that I wish I hadn't sold,
Mhm.
but in the short term, just to keep things running, I don't know that I have any better choice. So
What about even if you have just some affiliate offer that you just repeatedly run on that podcast that generates you even just a couple $1,000s a month?
yeah, that's what I'm moving to at this point. Is I'm gearing up the affiliate stuff for like your stuff and Manny stuff and Interview Cake and Wes Boss's courses and
Mhm.
some of the other places that people can go to learn stuff and just see how I can do with those. And that's part of the self-sustaining idea behind these shows is that if I can get them so that they'll pay for themselves at least, right? Even if they're not paying me, if they're paying for themselves as far as editing and all that other stuff goes,
Yeah.
then, and it pays for Michelle to do enough of the legwork to, keep the guests and the hosts and everybody else more or less, keep it running, then, I can step in where needed. But yeah, that's kind of the plan there. I'm trying to decide if I want to chase any of these other things like coaching or put out a course or something like that, and I'm leaning toward that, but yeah, anyway.
I don't know. I feel like that's an uphill battle. I mean, the coaching for sure, you could probably pull something together and get some money coming in, because you
Right.
don't need that many people. But selling a course is harder because selling from a podcast, like, you really need to grow the list. Like, there's a lot of, I think,
Yeah.
and plus it's not going to be widely applicable with the multiple properties that you have. One thing though that I would say that I think is important, well, I guess, okay, so what I see is really valuable. The reason why uh, I don't like the idea of getting rid of that show is because, like, one of the greatest values that your company has is that it's the largest developer podcast network. So
Right.
have you looked at potentially selling the entire thing rather than selling a single show? Because I think you get more value out of selling the entire network than
I've
you would.
talked to a few folks about something like that.
uh
Um but nobody's biting. I've had a couple of companies basically say interested but can't right now.
okay.
And yeah, there are a few other people I could reach out to and see what I can make come together.
Okay. Well, yeah, definitely let me know if you're planning on, before you do anything like drastic, because again, it's one of those things where maybe we could even work out a deal, because I would be like, as I say this, as I don't even have the time to do to do anything, but yeah, because it would, I just hate to see, like, the thing that you've built get broken up when it can be,
Yeah.
the whole, like, it's almost like, I feel like if you can ride it out, and maybe that's the right thing to do, is to get a regular job for now, just so you can ride this out. But if you do that, then I wouldn't break up the podcast and lose any of the shows. Like, it'd be better to just ride it out, and then hopefully maybe in a
Yeah.
year or so, as things pick up, this whole thing is done with the coronavirus stuff, and then you can get sponsorships again. And
Yeah, I think that's an option. I'm still, I don't know. I mean, I have one sponsor that's interested in sponsoring that show, the React Native show, alongside iFreaks. And so we're kind of talking through that, and then talking through some other ideas that I've got out there. The remote conferences is another real option with a lot of this stuff. I mean, it worked out earlier this year, and I can essentially show Michelle how to put them together and just have kind of a minimal involvement in that, except for emceeing them.
yeah.
And so there's that as well. I don't know. There are a few places where I don't know. I don't have great options, but yeah, I need to find a way to pay the bills at home, right? And if I take this job, given the salary that they've offered me, I mean, we can get caught up really fast, and
Yeah, that
and
makes
so if I can make the podcast network support itself until things come back to where it can pay me enough to pay the bills, then so be it. And I've also put out feelers to see if I can get podcast editors. I went and looked on like onlinejobs.ph and a couple of other places, and there are a couple places where it looks like I can get a full-time editor for like $500 a month.
Yes, exactly.
And that's significantly less than what I'm paying. It kills me to think about letting these guys, my current editors, go, especially since they've stuck it out for so long without getting fully paid.
Yeah, I mean, you can catch up and pay them later, but I mean, you got to do
Well,
what
I'd have to. But yeah, it feels like it's down to just keeping this thing open.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll tell you what, like, what I would do if I bought the company from you is I'd immediately slash pretty much everyone and just get editors, like you said, from online jobs.ph or Upwork editors for like somewhere to the $5 to $10 an hour range.
Right.
I would cut the show notes. I would let's see, I would take every single sponsorship slot that you have, and I would fill it with affiliate.
Well, this is mostly the plan that I have.
Yep.
So
yep. So yeah, I mean, I think then you're probably doing what I would do, right? Like, I can't think of much else that I would try and do to make that work. But
and then I'm just going through expenses on the company and saying, okay, I've cut that.
Yeah.
Right. So
another option too, potentially, well, I mean, and we could talk about this more offline. This is probably more of an offline conversation, is something along the lines of, what do you need to live? Like, maybe we could do some kind of partnership where you could still stay in business, and I could essentially pay you what you need to live in order to get through this, so that you're still able to run the network full time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I'm open to working something like that out. I just want to make sure that you're getting the value that you need out of it too, right?
Yeah, it would be a long-term investment in my mind, like something where I would see like the value of, of what we could do to, like, figure out the plan, like, slashing the costs and getting it to the point where it's at least coming close to, breaking even. And then I'd be outlaying some money initially with the hopes that in the future we'd be able to grow it and get it back on its feet. But rather than, but that's kind of a last resort thing, right? It's like, if you, like, I guess what I'm saying is that, like, if you get to the point where you're ready to throw in the towel, don't contact me. We'll figure something out I'm sure we
Right.
could figure something out, but hopefully it doesn't get to that point. But I'd rather see you be able to just get it going. And what you have to do is you just got to slash the costs. I mean,
Yep.
that's
Yeah,
the
that's
biggest
pretty
thing.
much it. I've just got to slash the costs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's the deal. I mean, if and what I'm looking at honestly is that if I can get it, so if I slash the costs
Hmm.
on the podcast, and that's the thing that's interesting, right? Is that for the $500, it was $510 I think I listed per month for a full time editor.
Yeah.
So that comes down to so 510 divided by 4 divided by 40. I should just do 4.5 because so it comes out to about $3 an hour.
Yep.
So I'm essentially paying them if it takes them 4 hours to edit it, right? So even if they're not as fast as the other guys, that's $12 an episode as compared to what I'm paying them, which is closer to 70 or 80 bucks an episode, right?
Yeah.
So my costs for that go down, and then if I'm paying Michelle, I guess. So, I'm paying Michelle about 12 bucks an hour. And so if she's spending, if you just kind of spread that across each of the shows, and she spends, 4 or 5 hours a week lining up guests and stuff like that. I mean, then my cost per show go down from like $120 to like $50 or $60 an episode. And so if I can make that on affiliates, then I'm breaking even, and anything I make beyond that, I'm good to go, right?
In fact, here's another possible idea, right? Like, how much editing do you really need for a podcast, right? So, for instance, what I've been doing on YouTube, in fact, that's what my 10 o'clock appointment is I was interviewing all these people, and then I was sending it over to my editor, and then it would take like weeks before we eventually,
right.
I was like, let's just do live streams, right? So I just started doing, I'm going to do a live stream. I've been doing like all these live streams, and it's basically unedited, right? Because it's live.
Mm-hmm.
And then it sits on the YouTube channel unedited. So I wonder, for a lot of your podcasts, if what you might be able to do is not edit the actual podcast itself, but just have the editor go in and insert the pre-rolls.
Outro. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Intro, outro, and pre-rolls.
Yep.
And then that would, I mean, shit, you could have one person working part-time doing that. In fact, you could even automate it. Like you could actually write software to just automatically add intros and outros to every one of your podcast episodes, and insert an ad at a specific spot. And you don't even need an editor at all at that point, right? It could take your costs out of zero.
Well, so that's the other thing that I'm looking at is that, these guys go through and actually listen to the whole thing and clean it up. And we've done some work to actually make that easier. So all of the podcast hosts at this point are trained to, if there's something that needs to be edited out, they put a note in the Zoom chat, and the Zoom chat has timestamps on all of your messages in the chat relative to the start of the call.
Yeah.
And so when somebody gets the full-on file, the full-on audio file, then they can just go over to that point and clean things up. And so if we just tell them, look, you only have to edit the parts where we put a note in to edit, right? So if there's a long pause, you put a note in. If there's somebody says something and then wants to restate it better, you put in an edit, right? So then essentially, yeah, they do that. They put in the intro and outro, they put the ads in, and then they just go clean up those couple of spots. I mean, for an hour-long episode, it should only take them an hour. Yeah, because they don't have to listen to the whole thing, right? They just have to go in and clean up where we tell them to clean up. And so then what I can do is I can just let everybody know, hey, look, we're only cleaning up where you tell us to clean up. So if there's a long pause, you got to put that in the chat. If there's a place to edit, you got to put it in the chat. Right. And that way we can drastically reduce the amount that we're spending on editing. And then with what Michelle the time she spends on the shows, yeah, I need to find ways to streamline that, but I've got some ideas on that as well. And, so we could cut down the amount of time she spends actually having to because she goes out and invites people to come on the show. And what I'd like to do there is actually find a way to automate as much of that as possible. So it's like, we get a newsletter, for example, right? And all she has to do is go in and flag it. And then, maybe we have somebody that I'm paying $3 an hour to instead of $12 an hour to, that, they can go in and they can go, okay, well, I need to find this person's info and go invite them, so that, she's working on the high touch stuff that I need her on.
Yeah.
As opposed to the rest of this.
Yeah. I mean, I would look at it. Okay. So with what you said, I would say what you could do with the podcast is just tell people it's not going to be edited. So there is no taking stuff out. I mean, that just simplifies it. As long as all the hosts know ahead of time, right, that it's unedited, then you don't even have those edit points, right? So you just like this, we're just going to air it. In fact, what you could do is you could have like 2 or 3 different tiers of podcasts, right? So take your podcasts, divide them up, right? Your major properties, your JavaScript, Java, your Ruby Rogues, right? Any
Adventures
of them that
in Angular, yeah,
any of them that are like your key ones, you do the full editing and show notes for, maybe. Okay, maybe you leave it exactly what you're doing. Okay, for the tier 2 guys, maybe or let's just say there's just 2 tiers. If they're not tier 1, then they get no editing. They just get the intro and outro put on there automatically in the inserts, right? But you just edit the tier 1 ones and you keep the quality. And then as your shows grow, the tier 2 ones, they become tier 1, and then they get the editing and everything because they can sustain themselves. That I mean, that right there could work. As far as the Michelle thing, I think I don't have any, like, that's the one where I'm like, she's worth the money and the time, because that like someone smart enough to reach out and to do, like, that's a lot of like grunt work that you don't want to do, and someone can really screw it up. Like getting guests on the show is that would be a headache. Like I would not want to do that headache for all those shows. So I think that like she's fine. I wouldn't even worry about that. But I think if you do something with the editing, like I said, I mean, maybe you just go fully to the point of automating it, where you just have, I mean, you could literally create a software solution that just, and there might even be one. I know that like podcast hosts like Libsyn, they have the ability to automatically insert like intros.
Yeah, you usually have to tell them where in the episode to put them.
Yeah, but you can give them a time, so you can just make it automatic. Like they even have some algorithms that are smart enough to look for a space, like so they won't insert it in the middle of a word or something. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, you could basically get to that point. I mean, when you're talking about survival, I think it's worth it's worth doing that, and it's really not going to affect much as far as the podcast quality that much. I mean,
that's true.
If you want to keep the tier 1s, I mean, if you just did the tier 1 podcasts, right? And you
but even if I just kept it to annotations, basically, right? So it's so that even those edits are essentially not somebody listening to the whole thing. They just go in and they hit those spots that we flag as edit this, edit this, edit this.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of the episodes don't even have edit points, right? They don't have anywhere where we're saying, okay, clean that up.
Yeah. The other thing you could do, too, is you could have a pre-recorded, like you could just like roll, like you could almost make the podcast like a live show, and then you roll the intro at the beginning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And record it so that you're getting it all in there. And then if you have a sponsor read, you just, play the sponsor read. Well, everyone all the hosts just chill while you play the sponsor read. And then you've got the whole thing. You don't even have to edit it. It's just ready to go.
Yeah. That's the way I used to do it.
Yeah.
And so we would just do it all in one take, and then we would just release it. Of course,
yeah.
That was the way I did it 10 years ago.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of ways to solve this problem, but you've got to do something to knock this down. Like you got to get to the point, like you got to have a goal of, if you're currently paying $75 an episode, I think you need to have a goal of paying like $15 max an episode to get it out the door. And I think if you make that your budget and you can stay in that budget, then I mean, then you'll be fine. Then
Yeah.
maybe you don't even need to take another job.
Another job. Yeah. Well, the other thing is I could just go get contracts, right, to backfill the rest of it, or do coaching or some of this other stuff. And I kind of need to explore some of that. One thing that now, when you say $15 an episode, that's just the editor, right? Or does that include Michelle's work to invite guests and stuff like that?
I would say everything, like just to get it
Yeah.
out completely, right? Maybe it's $20, I don't know, but
Yeah.
like have a target, a goal, so that you can
Right.
reach that goal, and have it based on what you know, that like backwards work the numbers from, okay, if I pay X dollars per episode, okay, it will cost me this much. We have this much income that I know will come in, or I need to
Right.
fill the rest with affiliates, and then I'll have enough food to eat, right? Like,
Right.
so
Yeah.
base
If
it
I
off
can
of
get it,
that.
yeah. If I can get it under 50, yeah. If I can get it under $20 an episode, and I can make $100 an episode, right?
Mhm.
And we release 14 episodes. I mean, that's what? I can't math right now. 14 times 80. So that's $1,200 a week that it brings in, right?
Right.
That's profit, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, yeah, that's still, $5,000 a month, which isn't, it's not enough to pay me and pay the bills, but it's plenty to, for some of this other stuff. And then I can actually backfill the rest of the income I need with the conferences and or the remote conferences and, some of the other stuff. Right.
Yeah.
And then, or I could find a contract or something. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a good target to go for.
Yeah. So my targets are going to be income of $100 per episode.
Mm-hmm.
On all the shows, right? And I know that JavaScript Jabber will probably make up for some of the stuff on some of the smaller shows, like the DevOps show or the
you just
.NET
average
show,
it across,
right?
Yeah.
But my goal is to have that, and then the flip side is to keep the costs under $20 per episode,
Yeah.
so that I'm averaging an $80 profit on each episode. And so if I can get these editors to the point where they can do it for, $6 an episode, then that leaves me $14 an episode, essentially for Michelle, right? So she can spend up to an hour per episode finding a guest for that episode. And I don't think it'll take that long, because for the most part, she just has to reach out to people and get them to schedule. And she can probably reach out to quite a number of people in an hour, right? 10, 12 people if she's tracking down their contact info and reaching out. And so, out of the 10 or 12, if she gets 2 or 3 in an hour, then the costs, they stay way under that.
Yep.
And yeah.
And if you pick up an editor, like you're saying, a cheaper editor for $6 an hour, even up, something around that, and it only takes them 1 hour per episode to edit, because your editing process is much simpler. There you go. You're right there. So yeah, I think I don't think it's quite time to pull the eject button yet. I think if you do this, like get this done, and then I think you'll be in decent shape there, and then you can ride it out at least until you can get some bigger sponsorships and stuff. Because the thing is, like, this, if you can just keep on growing this network, it's it's hard because you're not getting the sponsorships now, but the number of viewers that you have, the attention that you're accessing, it's huge. That's extremely valuable.
Yeah,
and it
I
grows.
agree.
So
yep. Well, and the other thing is then going back to the remote conferences and the handful of other things that I'm doing that bring in money. Yeah, then I have the same thing, right? The target is to have Michelle only spend a certain amount of time, which costs me a certain amount of money.
Mhm.
on the conference, and then to make it back. And I've got some ideas on how I want to change some of that up. Because essentially what I'm looking at is doing the summits, but doing I want to try it in a little bit different format and see if I can grow my list with them and make a profit. And so the idea there is, if you want to get the talks live, you can just sign up for a free ticket. And then if you want access to the Slack, where you can ask them the speakers questions, and where you get access to all the other speakers, and you get access to the videos long term and all of that stuff, right?
Mhm.
Then you pay, $150 and you get access to all that stuff, or $100 and you get access to all that stuff. But then I can basically promote it all the way up to, and then leading into the conference. And after each day, just say, hey, look, if you like the talks and you want to watch them after this, you've got to pay for full access, right?
Yeah.
And so then because I think I had at the JavaScript conference, we had 100 and something people sign up. I can't remember exactly how many, but I mean, we had a decent number of people sign up. But all the people that would have signed up for free, and yeah, I probably would have lost some sales to that, but I also would have had a longer time period to sell to them. And so assuming that I could have sold the same number of tickets, I probably could have grown my list by 10 or 12 times that. Right?
Yeah. I agree.
So
Here's one other idea. Again, I'm not a big fan of this one. We had talked about it before, but it might be time to revisit it as well. Is there's a lot of like radio shows and whatnot that basically do the whole support this radio show, like the donation type of thing. We
yeah,
talked
the
about it before.
Patreon-ish thing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if I would use Patreon itself to do it, but sort of, I mean, you could try pitching that message of saying, it's basically like we'd like to keep this free and to continue producing the podcast episodes, and you know what I mean, like support,
Yeah.
$5 a month type of support. You can help. And then I don't know how many people you would get. That's the question, is like,
Yeah, I don't know either.
I mean, if you got like, and I would imagine it would have to be something like $500 a month. Like, I don't think, for a podcast that people are going to pay a lot more than that to support, like on a donation. But if you had $500, or if you had $5 a month, if you had 500 people, then it'd be, but see, that's only like 2,500. I don't know if that's really.
Well, it would pay for all the production.
Yeah, I guess so. If you could get there in
if I could get it under $20 an episode, it would definitely pay for all the production.
Yeah, that would pay for the production. But then the only problem with that was that it would preclude you from running sponsorships in the future, I think. Right?
Maybe. I don't know that they're necessarily mutually exclusive, right?
Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, it's just a hard message to sell if you have a sponsorship and then you're asking for donations as well.
Yeah,
to keep it on, because a lot of times the people that pitch it that way, what they say is, we our message is unfiltered and we
right.
We depend on you. We don't depend on sponsors and being influenced by sponsors and things like that. So that's a lot of the call. But so, because the big question with that is, it's like, can you scale it up? Like, could you see yourself getting to a point where you have 2,000 people paying $5 a month? But even at that, that's still only going to be like $10,000 a month.
Yeah.
Which, if you are doing well with sponsorships, you're going to do a lot more money than $10,000 a month.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I mean, before everything came down around my ears last year, I mean, we were doing 20 or 30,000 a month
in sponsorship. Yeah.
So yeah, but that's kind of where things are at. I may go, I don't know, I keep going back and forth on the selling that show.
Yeah, I would say
I'm kind of
that.
tempted to go basically say, look, I want to try a couple more things and then I'll sell it to you in a month if right. Or 2 months, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best because it's not. I don't know. I feel like it's not worth for you to lose that
Yeah.
possibly valuable property because it's like monopoly, right? It's like this is exactly a monopoly scenario, right? It's
Yeah.
like you want to mortgage the property, but it's part of a
Uh,
set, right? Like
right.
and you
Yeah.
get more rent when you have the set. So it's like
Yeah.
you're just not getting the rent right now because no one's landing on the space. So what do you do? Like
Yeah.
um, the best long-term strategy is to hold on to it.
Yep. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I wish I had a better solution
Yeah.
for it. But I think if you cut the costs, that's the key. We've been talking about this
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah. If I can cut the costs and then stack some affiliates in there for the time being to just get them to pay for themselves, like just they have to cover the production, like not even cover paying me what I need to live on, just themselves, right?
Yeah.
So that I can stick this out and then I go get a job or a contract or something in the meantime and we just hang on, right, until, because honestly I think people are losing their tolerance for a lot of this coronavirus stuff.
Yeah.
And I think and then the other thing is the people who are ginning all of this up, they're mostly ginning it up for political reasons. And so after the election, I think a lot of it's going to cool. I think a lot of it's going to cool off, right? Because one way or the other, they're either going to get what they want or they won't, but there's nothing else they can do at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so, anyway, so I think that's part of the deal too, is that, after November, I think things will calm down by mid-January at the, maybe February at the outside, but honestly, I think people will continue to demonize if Trump gets reelected, or they'll if Biden gets elected, they'll back off some. But either way, it's only going to hold water for so long before they have to give up and back off. So
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's worth seeing what happens after November. And then
yeah, I mean, there's the Black Lives Matter related stuff too, but that's not, in my opinion, impacting economy as much as the coronavirus thing, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
So if I can hang in there until then, yeah,
I would say if you could hang in there until then, or I think that's got to be the best. I was gonna say if you can sell the network too, though, but the thing is, it would be better to hang in and then sell the network when it's worth more money anyway. So yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else that there was that I was going to suggest, but I think that's it. I mean, like I said, cutting the costs is the big thing. The coaching thing you could potentially try, but I don't know how much, like, you'd have to figure
I don't
out,
know.
and then that's going to take a lot of your time as well. I mean,
Yeah,
which, unless you can charge, and you're not, it's not like, I mean, because if you're doing coaching, you'd be like doing like career coaching, right? Would be the
yeah,
idea.
yep,
So it's not like you're going to be able to charge like a ridiculous amount of money per hour because it's not the same as like business coaching or
right,
right. I mean, you might be able to charge a couple $100 an hour,
yeah,
but I suppose if you got like 10 clients, then that could, but that's still, yeah, it'd be better to spend that time working on building up the business.
yep. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't know what happened to Manny today. He's slacking.
So what's up with you and your business? Anything new there?
I'm still working on the Facebook ad stuff. Hopefully
Is
I'll
that
get
panning out?
we haven't actually launched the ads yet because I'm trying to work out and get everything flowing correctly before we do it. So there's some trouble with tracking. Like Kajabi, for some reason, they're just a pain in the ass as far as like tracking stuff. So
Oh, really?
yeah, it's crazy that they don't, like, on their upsell page, they won't allow you to put, they don't have a way for you to put script. I think it's a bug that they have in the system. So I can't put Google Tag Manager or Google Analytics or a tracking pixel on it, which is
Right.
just dumb. So I might move like the funnel to ClickFunnels and then use Zapier to zap people into Kajabi when they buy. That might be the way that I'm going to go, but I've been kind of hung up on that.
Yeah. I'm kind of playing with some of those ideas too, because we have the 30-day JavaScript challenge that we've been doing, and that's been going well. But I haven't found like a hosting platform for that kind of a thing that I really love.
Yeah.
And I've looked at Kajabi, and it does some of the stuff I want, but not all of it. ClickFunnels doesn't do all the stuff that I want for their membership areas. That's what I'm using for the challenge right now.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But I've been looking at some other stuff, and like I've looked at like MemberPress and LearnDash on WordPress, but some of that feels clunky. And I like Teachable, but they're not anyway.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I think if I were going with like just the course, like a membership platform today, I would probably either do Teachable or Podia.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty equivalent. Podia has actually been coming up with a lot of good innovations lately, but and then use something else for the shopping cart system, because Teachable and Podia do not really, they don't do the upsells and everything. So
Yeah, their shopping cart setup sucks.
yeah,
Because I was looking at Teachable, and ugh, I'm just like, man.
no one has it like all together, but I'd use Teachable or Podia, and then I would use either Thrivecart or ClickFunnels for the shopping cart.
I'm really digging ClickFunnels. So
the only problem I have with ClickFunnels, I mean, I got a couple of problems, but the biggest problem I have with ClickFunnels is they go down. Their network goes down.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just last week or a couple of weeks ago, they took everyone down. They had like an outage, and that's kind of a pain in the ass. But
I haven't experienced that yet.
I might just move back to ClickFunnels because the tracking on there is really good. Like you can see on each step of the funnel, and they have upsells and downsells, whatever you want. With Kajabi, it's so frustrating because you can only have one upsell, can't have any downsells. You can have an order bump, and you can have one cart abandonment email that only goes out to people who are already members and try to purchase a second product. So it's like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. So, and I got off of WooCommerce because WooCommerce, managing it yourself it seems really cool, except that what ends up happening is you got to buy all these fucking plugins for WooCommerce to get it really, and then you end up paying a couple $100 a year anyway.
And then you've got to run it yourself. You've got to maintain it.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, there's just not a like perfect solution, but
yeah, that's the problem that I have with like MemberPress and LearnDash, right? Is that I don't want to have to maintain all that garbage.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at moving the summits over to ClickFunnels because it's mostly drag and drop, and I can get Michelle trained on it, and she can set the whole dang thing up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then you set up the membership area on the back end. And the other thing that you get out of that is that you can set things. Okay, it shows up on this day, and then it goes away on this day, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't have to go in and try and manually figure out how to schedule the update on WordPress or this, that, or the other, so that only the people who should be able to see it long term can see it long term, right?
Yep. Yep.
So
I guess I should probably be dropping off here in a minute to go
yeah,
get that live stream going. Want to do our thoughts for the week?
Yep, absolutely. But yeah, my thoughts basically just come down to what we've been talking about for a while, and that is cutting costs, like anything that I don't have to pay for, cut the cost. There are a couple of tools like HubSpot I'm paying quite a bit for, and I'm only using like 2 of their features. But Michelle's invested heavily into setting up her stuff on it. So if I cut it, she's going to have to migrate over to Gemelius or something like that. So there's going to be some cost to cutting costs, but the flip side is that longer term, if I can cut the costs and then I can set targets for what they need to make versus what they bring in, then I think we can make this work long term, and then just figure out from there, what we're doing. And yeah, so it's just cutting costs and then having those targets, which I've never done before. I've never actually set like cost targets and profit targets, but I need to do that so that I know whether or not they're working.
Yep. Let's see, mine would be like think ahead, like envision what is actually going to happen, how are things going to go before doing something. I think that's one I get tripped up on a lot. Like even with hurting my foot on this run, part of the problem was I wasn't really thinking that far ahead. Like going out there in the sun, in the heat, I didn't think about what was going to happen, like going all the way out there and being stuck and potentially running out of water, or taking the precautions of of running on the trail. Like I didn't think about all those things all the way through.
Right.
And so it's like when you start something or you're about to do something, like just think a little bit ahead of what it's going to feel like to be an hour into it, or to be
Right.
in the process itself, and think about what are you going to want, what are you going to need, what so that you can make the precautions ahead of time and you can plan things out. Because sometimes it's easy to just say, oh, I'm just going to figure it out, or I'll just deal with it. But oftentimes dealing with it is is more than you anticipate. Where it just take you a minute just to envision what it's actually going to be like to be in the situation. So
Yep.
all right. Yeah, well, let's hopefully next week you're going to come in lean and mean with your as a cost cutting machine, huh?
Yeah, I want to make sure I'm doing right by everybody too, and that's the balance. But the flip side is that if the whole thing craters, yeah, I'm still committed to paying them back, but it'll be harder.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, good luck on that. Oh, and I sent you everything for the simple programmer promotion, I think, for the career guide promotion. Let me know if you need anything else. And then when you have the air dates, let me know, just so I know what when I can kind of look at and analyze the sales, because it's not going to be exact on knowing what the sales are, but I can kind of look at the difference. So
all right, sounds good.
All right, Chuck.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
Yep.